Oh, yeah. In fact, people showing up at 5, showing up at 5:30. No.
No kidding.
That's the difference. I mean,
Right,
at least
right,
it's
right.
kids.
Yeah.
Right. They don't know the map, so there's
Yeah.
two things. That is like, no.
Right.
You gotta be there when the kids be there. We have some definitely.
I think they appreciated that whoever that was clocking in was causing the problem with time lock. Hey.
I plan to, but I'm happy to.
You saw, because I put another Q&A slide, so we can make that transition.
We're gonna have a slim group today.
Yeah. Like that fight.
I know you do. I know you do. That's what they, I'm just going crazy with that.
Except the agenda and stuff, I have to put that on.
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe Mr. Smith is on his way, maybe so.
I don't know if it's asking. Yeah, I haven't heard from him.
And Mr. Barrow, Mr. Moss said he was contacted by Ms. Edwards.
Wow, so,
So,
he just texted, he's not, substitute teaching,
oh,
and he's in test, and he can't make it. Yeah.
okay, we're going to get started. It's 3:31. A couple of our board members who had planned to be here cannot be here today. Ms. Campbell is on the committee, and Ms. Grabowski usually attends, but we're certainly happy to see our president and Dr. Howard Hall with us. I'm very honored to assume this role as chairman now. I've been on the accountability committee since its inception, so I'm pretty up to speed on all that we're trying to accomplish. But I do want to thank you, Mr. Moss, for giving me this assignment.
Well deserved.
Okay. So my remarks are brief, and they're going to be the same every time. I sat down today and thought about a chairman's affirmation, and it's mainly to remind myself, but each time we meet, this is the same thing that I'm going to say, and that is, one, if our accountability committee is to be effective, our attention must always be centered on the close alignment of our board governance with the district strategic plan. Two, our reports and discussions must be grounded in student achievement data. And three, our focus is totally on desired student growth and student outcomes. So if we can stick to that, and I can remember to stick to that, we're gonna do just fine. Dr. Watts, comments from you?
Sure. I loved your affirmation, and I like that you'll say it every single time. Today's accountability meeting marks an important step in our ongoing work to create and implement a new strategic plan. So I'm excited that you all will get another iteration of that work today with a focus on measurements, to your point about student outcomes being at the forefront of everything we do. I think the update that you all will get is a clear indication that our students and their outcomes, academic progress is a headline of a plan, not a footnote. And we definitely want to keep that at the forefront. Every pillar, every priority, and every department measure will in some way, shape, or form connect back to students. So I'm excited to ask Dr. May and Dr. Taylor for their update, and I'm even more excited for your feedback as we continue to refine a strategic plan that we hope will be rolling out. As Ms. Taylor often hears me say, over the last few weeks, we button it up and get it ready for public consumption over the next couple of months.
We'll wait on the agenda approval and all till next meeting when I have a quorum here.
Good afternoon. Today, as Superintendent Watts has shared, we are excited about the evolution of how we will not only organize, but monitor and communicate progress within our strategic plan. As part of this work, Today, we will be sharing with you not only the goals themselves, but we also are going to talk to you a little bit about the structure and how we are defining success within this plan, how we plan to monitor progress, and more importantly, how we are ensuring accountability across our system. So with that said, I'd like to start by reconnecting us to our overall strategic planning process. This is a new graphic because Dr. May has been recreating some of our graphics, so thank her. She's pushing me, but this is, you've seen a version of this, is what I will tell you. And it's a reminder that our strategic plan has been developed through a phased process that began with ideation, visioning, stakeholder engagement, and is now, and we're excited about buttoning it up, and is now moving toward implementation. I hear that all the time. When are we going to be finished? She raised her hand to ask that question. So we are nearing the end and getting closer towards implementation. So over the past several months, you may recall, we've gathered feedback. I also want you to know we've been benchmarking and looking at best practices for goals, strategic plans across systems, both in education as well as industry. We've refined the structure of the plan based on some feedback. We had a chance to preview the plan to the board, and we received feedback, and we've made some adjustments based on that feedback. And then what we're going to really talk about today is we've really taken a different approach at looking at what success looks like for our district long term and what outcomes we want for students, staff, and the community. We are now entering the phase, as Dr. Watts has indicated, around measurement. And so today is a lot around the measurement framework that will guide how we monitor progress and how we support success for our students over time. As we enter this phase, I will be very transparent and tell you that it became very clear to me that we needed to think differently about what we measure, but also how the plan itself is organized. And you had a chance at the finance workshop to see this graphic, so I won't spend a lot of time here, but this is a reflection of the overall architecture of our strategic plan. I do want to point out, because we had a very robust conversation around what the representation is, that this is conceptually where the plan will land. We don't know what the exact graphic will be, but this gives you insight into the concept. And so moving from that, I want to walk you through some important shifts in the design of the plan. The first shift is the organization of the plan itself. Historically, our strategic plans were structured around departments with student outcomes embedded underneath. In this plan, we're intentionally redesigning the structure to place students at the very top. So again, no matter where we land, what the graphic looks like, we know at the top of our plan will be students. The pillars, as we've shared before, but I cannot underscore enough, will serve as the enabling conditions and the systems and structures that are needed to deliver the results for the students and create the conditions that ultimately land us in a position to make sure that every student that's in our system is future ready. You will also remember that we have the baseline experience as the foundation of the plan, ensuring that every student has access to consistent, high-quality learning experiences regardless of the school that they attend. Another shift, and that is the meat and potatoes of today, is the new way in which we'll measure the plan. The framework that we're using for measurement, we believe, creates greater clarity around what we're measuring, why we're measuring it, and who the primary information is intended for. And so I'll get a chance to walk you through that momentarily. And it's an echo. It's interesting. We didn't talk about it, but I heard the superintendent say it, and I'm going to echo the sentiments. One of the things that I think is most important to know about the plan, that every strategy, every indicator, every measure can directly be connected back to student outcomes. And that was intentional. We wanted everything to lead us back to student outcomes. Ms. Hall, we had a chance to connect, I believe it was Friday, and we kind of talked about that. So it's really prioritizing, not that other things don't matter and won't be measured, but our priorities around measurement will link back to student outcomes. So to operationalize this structure, we've developed a 3-tier model, which we'll get a chance to talk about. But I do want to bring back our favorite visual. And just give you a reminder again of how the plan is organized. What's different about how you read or interpret the plan is our plan starts from the bottom and we work our way up. And again, that just supports what I've shared with you around making sure that everything we do starts with a solid foundation and will lead to student outcomes. Now, let's talk a little bit about the measurement framework. This slide will share or introduce with you our 3-tier measurement framework that will guide how we monitor our strategic plan. So at a high level, and I'm going to start at a high level, then I'll drill down through each of the tiers, but at a high level, the framework is designed to ensure we're measuring the right things at the right level, again, for the right audience. Tier 1 focuses on student outcomes and what we ultimately want to achieve. Tier 2 focuses on progress indicators that help us monitor whether we're moving toward those outcomes throughout the year. And the Tier 3 goals focus on internal performance measures that help departments monitor execution and implementation quality of key tactics. The distinction is very important when you really look at the goals. The way that I see them is Tier 1 communicates the outcomes that we ultimately want for students. Tier 2 looks at the progress and helps us monitor that progress in real time. Tier 3 allows internal measures to help departments strengthen execution, implementation, and quality as we operationalize the plan. Together, what these 3 tiers do is create a structure that's stronger, models coherence between strategy, monitoring, accountability, and implementation, so bringing those things together. And if you look deeper at Tier 1, it represents, and I thought of this on the way here, it's the Big 6. 6 public-facing goals for our strategic plan. These goals are intentionally, as I've said, focused on student outcomes and experiences, not activities or programs or operational tasks. And again, not that we will not measure and monitor operational performance, but we wanted our plan to really stamp that our ultimate aspirations is what we deliver for our students. The 5 of the goals focus directly on core student outcomes, while the 6th goal focuses on ensuring students have access to future-ready experiences. That's deliberate. If you think of the top of the plan and you remember, our ultimate goal is to provide future-ready student success. So we said to ourselves that in order to ensure that we're providing that, we want to measure and monitor the experiences that students are having that will lead to their future readiness. Tier 1 goals serve, as the superintendent has noted, as the district's headline commitments to students, families, staff, and the community, and will anchor how we communicate throughout the plan. Under or beneath Tier 2 goals, you will see, Tier 1 goals, you'll see Tier 2 goals or progress indicators. Tier 2 brings the goals to life through measurable progress indicators tied directly to each outcome. You may recall the superintendent often references the difference between an autopsy and a checkup. I don't know if that's ringing a bell for you. But when we think about Tier 2 goals, that is exactly what they do. They're our checkup. Rather than waiting to the end of the year to determine what happened, these are our progress indicators that function as our systems check and allow us to monitor, look at trends, identify concerns early, and make adjustments in real time. So for me, what it does in many ways is these indicators or Tier 2 goals create the opportunity for preventative care instead of a retrospective analysis once the results are in. So we're really being deliberate and intentional about how we're making adjustments and looking at data before we get our final results in. And you'll see on the slide, there are examples that illustrate how the goals include aligned indicators and monitoring points that will help translate our long-term goals into our progress monitoring. Then finally, we have our Tier 3 goals, which includes internal performance measures that will be used by departments and specific program owners to monitor execution and implementation quality. These measures help determine whether the operational systems, supports, and strategies necessary to drive outcomes are being implemented effectively across the organization. If you think about some of the conversations we've had around the ROI work, we talk a lot about sometimes it's not that the program is giving us a return on our investment, it's the implementation, right? And so here, we want to build that into the plan because we know how we execute and implement the tactics matter. And so we're empowering departments to measure that internally, the implementation of those tactics. Are they going to help ultimately lead us to the student outcomes that we desire? And that's what Tier 2 represents. I'm going to pause there. Oh, Tier 3. I'm getting my numbers confused. Tier 3. That's what Tier 3 represents. I'm going to pause there. I've talked a lot to see if you have questions. And after your questions, Dr. May will come and walk you through the specific goals.
I think one of the major concerns is 5 years from now, those third graders are currently 3 years old. And as a school district, we don't teach the 3-year-olds. We have Acorn Academy, which is awesome. And I wish we had more, but we don't have any control of the 3-year-olds. And we do have pre-K, and we touch a lot of students in pre-K. So I guess my question is, what conditions are we providing to ensure that when those students leave pre-K, because on here it says K to second, when they leave pre-K, that they are actually ready to learn to read once they enter kindergarten, because sometimes they are so far behind when we get them in kindergarten. So I know we don't have any control of that. I know with the Moonshot, that's a great community activity that we're doing right now, or community outreach. Right. But it's just something to think about, that those third graders 5 years from now, they're 3, and we don't have any touch, or we don't have the most school districts don't actually directly impact those 3-year-olds. And in some cases, the 4-year-olds we do have, so we really need to look at how we can expand our pre-K programs and how we can actually have those pre-K teachers to work directly with the kindergarten through second grade teachers.
Absolutely. Everything you just said is 100% valid. We are making a prediction on goals around kids we don't even have yet in our school building, in our school buildings. I'm glad you highlighted Moonshot. There's been intentional strategy and work around our Birth to 5 efforts, including internal staff. Every year we are increasing the number of pre-K students. But you're right. I think the more our community engagement strategies begin to work, the partnerships we can firm with daycare, efforts that we can support around Moonshot, the county's focus around childcare will give us the best conditions possible. They're not going to be optimal, right, to your point, but the best conditions possible to be able to reach that goal. I appreciate your feedback.
Mr. Moss, did you, okay. On that note, my new philosophy after talking with Dr. Watts last week is every problem can lead to a yes. So as far as I'm concerned, let's pilot the 3-year-olds we have. Let's use them as our little laboratory and see what we can find out from them. And the fact that we now pay our pre-K teachers, I'm so happy to hear that I always worried that pre-K teachers would leave and come to kindergarten or first grade because of the pay situation. But now that that's resolved, we probably have a good cohort of teachers who will stay at that level to help us. So let's see what we can do with the 3-year-olds. Because I had asked about that a while back. Are we in any way monitoring our Acorn Academy? How many of those kids stay with us, come to pre-K, and then come to kindergarten? And what do we see for our work when they get to first and second grade? So let's not say no. Let's just say we're going to pilot. How many do you think that is? Maybe we have 100, maybe 100 3-year-olds.
I don't. Is Mr.
Do we
Butler
have
in
that
the
many?
room?
I know there's two classes at Gould, and isn't there another one at Formy?
Give or take, more like 90. Give or
Okay,
take.
all right.
And I also want to highlight that I think my first year here, Dr. May did do some analysis on pre-K and their performance. those students who went to pre-K, how they matriculated through the system and what their goal, what their outcomes were versus students who did not. So we can resurface that report and send it to you all. So to some extent, we're kind of already studying that. And if you remember from our budget ask during the finance workshop, we continue to have efforts around integrating 3-year-olds. So it's the best optimal conditions we can create, but I don't know that it'll always be a perfect science because
Right.
kids are not compelled to come to school in the state of
Right.
Georgia until they're 7.
Right. And one last note on that, we had started trying to build partnerships with our childcare places and give them, those who were willing to kind of incorporate our
Still doing that.
methodology
And
and
that.
stuff, give them star ratings and that kind of thing. So all of that we can look into to help us in terms of the kids we actually end up seeing at kindergarten. I think.
Absolutely, and the only thing I'll add is the piece that you mentioned around studying. We are beginning to pilot some of that with select early childhood centers. That's something that we're wanting to do under this particular plan, to do exactly what you described, to study and learn from so that we can see what success students are experiencing and what we should be replicating.
Do we have any partnerships with pediatricians? Or thinking about that?
Urging.
Emerging, we do have partnerships in the medical field. That's part of Ms. Goldman's work. And so we do have places, Curtis V. Cooper, we have book partnership, but we're looking to, it's emerging, but also I'll say, we're looking to bolster. We have some ideas around how we can make that a little bit stronger, but we do have some that were established through a reading grant that the district had. And so we're continuing to leverage that and go deeper with those partnerships. All right. If not, any other questions before I turn it over to the woman of the hour who will actually go through the goals? Dr. May.
Thank you very much, Dr. Taylor. All right, so it is my pleasure to highlight our goals and discuss how we will be intentionally tracking progress toward those annual goals. So Goal 1 centers on early literacy readiness. Specifically, our goal is that by 2031, 90% of students in grades kindergarten through 2nd grade will demonstrate strong foundational literacy skills such as phonemic awareness, phonics, and fluency as measured by Amira. Our progress indicators will include the tracking monthly of the percentage of K through 2nd grade students who are on track for reading on grade level. We have established annual targets, and we will be monitoring that progress within each of the 5 years of the strategic plan, how we're progressing toward those annual targets and, of course, the overall 2031 goal. Those are measured by the Amira Reading Mastery Percentile Rank, which is abbreviated ARM. Additionally, we're going to look at students who are on track for reading on grade level, and our expectations there when we're looking at their ARM scores from the beginning of year to the middle of year, and also from the beginning of year to the end of year. For those kids who are on track for reading on grade level, we are expecting that 60% will hit that typical growth. Similarly, for those students who are not yet on track, we understand the importance of them exceeding that typical growth, so that is that high growth expectations, and we're looking for 40% of our K-2 students who are not yet on track to be making that high growth. This is really a critical goal because early literacy is the strongest predictor of long-term academic success. So by ensuring that students can read proficiently, hopefully by the end of 2nd grade, so we're being very ambitious, that is going to really guarantee them the best possible future outcomes, including access, opportunity, and achievement. Any questions with regard to Goal 1? Anybody?
Okay, Dr. May, I don't think I'm breaking my rule. We always talk about reading as though it's in a silo, but what about speaking? And I think I've brought this up many times before, that,
Early language is
you know,
critical. Yes,
I
ma'am.
don't know if good speech precedes good reading, or if good reading precedes good speech. I think they're kind of there together. So while I want the written word, of course, to be paramount, we've got to do something about improving the fluency with which our children are able to speak.
Yes, ma'am, and that is one of those foundational skills that we're looking for. So Amira allows us to do assessments of that specifically, and those are absolutely, I'm very happy to hear you point that out, those are inextricably linked. Early language and early literacy have to simultaneously occur. They work simultaneously and in a symbiotic relationship to allow that student to really develop the skill set necessary to be articulate, to be able to speak, but also to comprehend.
Yes, and I'm also glad you must be a fly on the wall in so many of our meetings. I think this is a good opportunity to kind of drop a nugget in the space of a discussion we had as recent as yesterday, that we really have to start looking at literacy beyond what happens during a reading period or a reading class. Because kids have to be literate, they have to be able to read, write, and speak in all content areas, including math, because a lot of the problems are word-oriented. And so the discussion that we've kind of had is like taking a lot of the focus off this reading, writing, and speaking only is occurring within a 2-hour block of time every day. It's occurring across content areas. And every adult that kids interact with, from the nurse to a parent, to a custodian, to a teacher, to a paraprofessional, can reinforce speaking, can reinforce writing, and can reinforce reading. And so our bigger approach, I think, as we look to the future, will be not to isolate this in the way that we've had. And I'll say I'm guilty of isolating it, because I made it just about what happens in an ELA classroom, right? But I want to just invite all of us to think about this more broadly, and that really every class is a literacy class. And literacy expands financial literacy, technology literacy. It's more than just, can a student pick up a book or write? It really, we need to look at it more broadly. So thank you for that push. We're pushing ourselves right now in the same way.
And I think it has a lot to do with language. We don't normally refer to it as literacy. We always refer to it as reading. And literacy is reading and writing, speaking. It's all three. But in our vocabulary, we're just caught up on saying reading, and then we forget about the writing piece as well as the language. So maybe some kind of we need to start incorporating the word literacy more often as opposed to just saying reading.
Sounds good. So goal 2 is a focus on third grade reading on grade level. And here, once again, we have set an aspirational goal for our year 2031, where we anticipate 95% of our third grade students meeting the Georgia Milestones reading on grade level benchmark. The progress indicators here are similar to those in goal 1, so we will be tracking the third grade students on track for reading on grade level and seeing how they're progressing toward those annual targets for each of the 5 years of the strategic plan, and of course, tracking towards that overall goal as well. These also will be measured by the Amira Reading Mastery Percentile Rank, the ARM score. Once again, we're looking for those students, those third grade students who are currently on track for reading on grade level. We anticipate that 60% will be hitting that typical growth. For those students who are not yet on track, we're looking for 40% of them to be in that high growth in order to be progressing well towards these established targets and where they need to be from a proficiency standpoint.
Just to clarify, so what we're talking about with the Georgia Milestones reading on grade level, that is that first score, right? That's the
The
Lexile,
Lexile
that's the
score. Yes.
Lexile.
Yes, sir.
Got it. Okay.
So for
By
third-
itself?
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah,
Got
so
it.
for
Okay.
third grade, we're looking for kids to hit at least a 520 Lexile or above.
There you go. Okay.
And of course, this is critical because third grade marks that huge transition from learning to read to reading to learn. It's a critical milestone in the academic progress and development of a student. So students who are not proficient by this point can face some compounding challenges as they continue to matriculate from grade to grade and across content areas.
Ms. Hall. Ms. Hall.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, sir.
So, this is a big communication challenge for our parents. Because I don't think our parents know how to read GMAT scores. And this is an opportunity for us to come up with some creative way,
Sure.
use a cartoon, whatever, for the parents to know, okay, so this first score is what we call our Lexile.
Yes.
And define what the Lexile is, and this is what we want, this is what we're looking for. So when a parent sees these scores, they know exactly where their child is. I think this is a great opportunity for us
Yes, sir.
to break down that wall.
Absolutely. We're happy to
Yeah.
work on such communication for parents.
And Mr. Morse, let me add on to that. Let's teach the children what it means.
Right, absolutely.
So that I can ask you,
Right.
Roger, what is your Lexile score? And you know what I'm
Yes,
talking about, and
yes.
you can
Yes.
tell me.
Yes, yes. When we went to Bowling Green a couple of years ago, or I haven't been on so many trips. That was part of the leader in me, was that the children were setting goals. And in every classroom, the children saw the goal. The goal was for the class. And so it became like a competition for the kids. And it was the kid buy-in. So I think that's essential. I'm excited about this.
For the high growth, the 40% high growth second graders, how realistic will that be for them to actually be reading on grade level at the end of third grade when they exit second grade performing below grade level?
Honestly, it depends because there's a lot of variability within that group. So it depends how close they are to being on track. And what we're hoping is they all make significant progress within that high growth. Anything exceeding 100% by end of year would mark in a gain that is essential for these students who are not yet on track. All right. So as we move forward to Goal 3, in Goal 3, we are focused on English language arts and mathematics achievement. So the goal here is that by 2031, district-wide, ELA and math achievement will reach a 70 weighted content mastery score on Georgia Milestones. Progress indicators here will be projected GMAS content mastery performance using the NWEA MAP assessment. That stands for the Northwest Evaluation Association Measures of Academic Progress assessment. We administer this 3 times a year, at the beginning of year, middle of year, and end of year. And what we're looking for additionally, of course, is growth. So we're looking at the percent of students exceeding expected growth both at the mid-year point and at the end of year. And once again, we're looking for at least 40% of students to exceed that expected growth when we look at that beginning of year or fall to winter, middle of year, or that beginning of year to end of year MAP growth. This is critical because we know strong literacy and numeracy across grade levels are foundational to college, career, and life readiness. So this really should be reflective of the effectiveness as well of our Tier 1 instruction district-wide.
I don't understand. So is this the proficient?
So this is so we're looking at both the projected content mastery performance from
Right.
MAP. So
Okay.
they
Oh, from
actually
MAP.
project
Okay.
an actual score,
Got it, okay.
but we're also looking for growth.
Okay.
Now, Dr. May, we're going to still celebrate children who don't exceed the expectation, but who meet it.
Yes, ma'am. We will, yes.
Then
We
we'll-
really are appreciative of all students continuing to make academic progress.
Okay. Now, I consider your numbers to always be golden, so there was a reason you felt 70%. Your research has shown you that that's something we can, if we do everything that we said we we're going to do leading up to this, we should be able to expect that 70%.
So I'd really love to credit Mrs. Rylander, who does an awesome job of really studying the nuts and bolts of all of our data and really assessing our content mastery over the last several years and making the best projection with regard to a number that all of us could feel good about it being a really nice aspirational goal, but something that we really believe our students can achieve by 2031.
Want to add anything, Christy?
All right. Then let's advance to Goal 4, which focuses on student attendance. Here, we're looking at 2031 to yield 90% of our students in grades K through 12 to be absent less than 10% of enrolled school days. That is the way that the state of Georgia, from an accountability standpoint, measures attendance. So we want to be aligned with that. With regard to monitoring progress, we'll be looking at the percentage of K-12 students absent less than 10% of days enrolled on a monthly basis. So we're looking at that monthly attendance monitoring via PowerSchool. Once again, we have established annual targets that we will be monitoring toward and looking how students progress toward those. We also will be looking at trend analyses of chronic absenteeism at the school level, grade level, and also at the student group level to see where those need areas are, where we may need to focus more of our attention with regard to attendance.
Dr. Watts, to me, this seems like we're crossing over a bridge now into the effects the school culture has on kids. Tell me what you think about what we could do better in terms of just making kids want to come to school as opposed to, everything else that we have to do to literally drag them in there. What kinds of things can our site leaders come up with?
Absolutely. I think this is clearly a place where there's a partnership needed between parents and schools. So I want to say that first and foremost, schools can't do it alone. We need parents to play their role. But I think over the first couple of years, we've addressed a lot of the structural issues, data keeping, record keeping. All that has now been cleaned up, and the place that we are now and the place in which our strategic plan tries to shine a light on is making school a place where kids feel empowered, where they feel like there is relevance, there is a place for them to be not only engaged academically, but engaged in music, engaged in art, have signature programs that they can participate in. I believe very much so in the pull method. The push method works when you're kind of enforcing compliance. But even if you have kids in the building, if they don't have a mindset and an ownership in their learning, having them in the building alone, when their minds are somewhere else, they're absent as far as I'm concerned, right? So we have to move to a place where school becomes a place where kids want to be. We have to think differently about school. School in the traditional mindset does not work for every kid in today's time. There are different ways we can establish school hours, different programs. There are different ways that schooling can happen, and it does not have to be always the traditional sense in which we have always thought about schooling. So these are some of the innovative things that we are thinking about, not that necessarily our principals need to do alone, but we need to be thinking about as a community. Because the old, traditional ways in which we've done things are great, it's given us a great foundation, but as we move to the future, we have to be open to other models. Because the kids now they have different needs. Society has created a different context in which they exist, and the future demands of them something much different than what was demanded of us. And so we have to create the conditions for that in our strategic plan and then implementation. I feel like if we do those things, kids will want to come to school. There'll be a desire to be at school.
Dr. Howard Hall?
And also, we have to remember at the high school level, I always talk about it, athletics. When you have an organized, strong athletic program, whether it's football, basketball, soccer, whatever sport is at that school, that has a great impact on school culture and attendance.
I believe that just as with everything else, the earlier children behave the way we want them to, the more entrenched that behavior is going to be with them. So I'm looking at kindergarten in terms of building strong attendance behavior. And there's so many creative things people can do. I mean, if I'm in kindergarten and the teacher tells me that Tanya is my buddy, and we're going to do activities through the day as buddies, and Tanya's not there on Tuesday, then Wednesday, Tanya, where were you? We were da-da-da-da-da. I mean, there's so much we could do to have the kids help us if we just become a little more creative in our thinking. And that's why I mentioned the school site principal. It doesn't have to be the principal. The teacher can come up. But the younger these children are, whose coming to school is just as natural as breathing, the easier that's going to be for us to get done what we need to do. Oh, I'm sorry, Roger. Mr. Moss.
So, and I think this is also the opportunity for us to work with our community partners. Asking our community partners for incentives. Stratton Leopold will give you ice cream if you ask him, Sorry, Stratton, I put you on blast. But if monthly or quarterly we have so what class had the best attendance? They get an ice cream party. Those are I always talk about education is everyone's business. Here's our opportunity to invite those businesses to participate with us.
Kindergarten, ice cream party is cool.
Oh, yeah.
It may not be so cool for a fifth grader, but for a kindergarten, although it is.
We got pizza places too.
But we really have them enraptured at 5 years old and 6 and 7. So whatever we can instill then, I think it's going to pay off for us.
We agree. I think it has to be, we have to provide external motivators, but really what we want to do is build behaviors and habits. Because when you are an adult, you don't get an ice cream party if you come to work. Right? You either come to work or you don't have a job, even if you work at, anywhere. But it's a combination of both of those things, but we want to change habits and behaviors that incent students to come. And I think that includes incentives. It also includes programming, access, athletics. It has to be seen as the whole thing.
Well, Tanya and I know we go to work every day. We get our Coach bag, see? So the ice motif moved up.
Thank you. And this leads beautifully into Goal 5, which focuses on student engagement and belonging, which is essential to that core experience for all of our students. So by 2031, we anticipate that 90% of our students will demonstrate positive belonging and engagement as measured by a combined index of student survey responses, as well as the inverse of the weighted suspension rate. So our progress indicators on a monthly cadence will be that monthly weighted suspension rate, which we anticipate remaining lower than the comparison point at the same time in the previous school year. We're also going to intentionally survey our students with regard to belonging and engagement. So here we will be tracking progress based on the percentage of positive responses on these survey items. These will be locally administered as a mid-pulse check as well as end of year. And this, no, I'm so sorry. And this is essential because students learn best when they feel safe, connected, and valued. So that strong sense of belonging supports their academic success, attendance, and that positive school culture.
The only thing I'll add here is there's been quite a bit of discussion here as it relates to us looking at discipline from a policy perspective, the code of conduct, and looking at weighted suspension rate can sometimes incent schools maybe not to issue consequences when they should. And that is not the message we want to send with this. And because if a student there's an infraction that means you need to maybe not be at school or be in another setting, we definitely do not want a school to, and it's important that I say this publicly, right? We do not want a school not suspending students for a good number for us to hold up to the community, right? So this is going to require some careful communication. I do want to look at discipline, but it's not as an incentive to play with the data or to not issue consequences when they are needed. But this one has gotten quite a bit of conversation amongst the team. I would be interested if you have any thoughts on it.
Either colleague? Okay. I was reading something the other day. I know I'm always sending you all articles and stuff, but it really interests me. And I read where one school district, instead of suspending their students to just be at home on the phone, they had to do community service. So they built it in, and I mean, it didn't happen overnight, but they built it into that community culture that if you're out of, and I guess, you know, they can't just go do anything. It has to be very structured. But instead of you being at home, you act out at school, you're going to have to go work at such and such and such. And I don't mean things that would get us in legal trouble. We're not going to have our kids out picking up trash, not that kind of thing. But something, hopefully, that they'd be learning something while they're doing this community service and developing skills, you know, not skills, but the relationships, so that the next time they're ready to act out, maybe they'll think differently. I think it would certainly raise the level of community engagement with our children if that were a policy that we had, a program. And that would take somebody very smart to get this off the ground, but I think we could do it, and I think it would make a big difference. Yes, Dr. Howard Hall.
I attended a human trafficking workshop last night, and one of the presenters said something that was just really powerful, and it kind of leads to what you're saying. If the percentage is high that's being reported, we shouldn't look at it as a bad thing. We should look at it as if the community is now engaged and they are reporting the number of human trafficking. The same thing with our schools. We don't want them to not report because you're hiding it. We want it to be transparent. So we need to kind of look at the culture of reporting the realistic numbers, and that way it gains the attention that it needs so we can provide the help. because it doesn't help at all if they're not reported and all these incidents continue on happening within the schools.
That's right. Yes,
Good
Dr.
afternoon.
Barnes.
So this is a great opportunity as we go into this upcoming year. We are refining our alternative program over this next year, which will allow us to do more wraparound services for students and to provide those service opportunities for those students so that we can redirect some of those behaviors. But aside from redirecting behaviors, it gives those students a sense of belonging because they're in a smaller environment. Just because they committed an infraction doesn't mean that it's purgatory. It's an opportunity for us to build meaningful connections with them while rehabilitating them so they can get back into the traditional school setting. So this is a great opportunity within this goal for us to invest deeply into our alternative programs as well.
Well, Dr. Barnes, let me ask you, perhaps we have those children with us right now who we could begin to pilot something instead of just being in an alternative program where they mimic what's supposed to be going on, at a regular school. Maybe if we created some sort of programs where the students aren't just sitting, typical, regular, that we could see how we could do things in the community with them, and that might be able to shorten the amount of time they have to be away from their home school. I just see it as an opportunity that we could
Yeah,
start
absolutely.
doing something a little bit more creatively than we're doing.
As a principal, I didn't have ISS, I had an alternative classroom. And counselors, I had couple of teachers that would man those classrooms. Teachers would visit to give work and to sit side by side with kids as needed. Counselors would come in during the day to provide counseling sessions for those students. They couldn't change classes and go to lunch with their friends, but similar, there are pilots that you can do. It doesn't require a whole systemic change.
Yeah.
That can create the same effect. I do agree that we could pilot some of those things and replicate them, but there's a greater system effort going on at the same time. We really need both.
Yeah. Yes, Dr. Howard.
And finally, we also have the dean of students pretty much that are supervising the middle school sites and the high school sites. How effective are those dean of students? Are they working hand in hand with the person that's the ISS coordinator? Some schools have ISS, and I know in some instances you had the paraprofessionals actually in those classrooms with those students, so that's.
And we don't have ISS consistently across the district. And I would be wrong if I tried to assess how our deans of students are working across our schools as it relates to discipline, because I don't think there is a way that I could define and give to you with clarity. But certainly that's something we can work on, since that individual is primarily responsible. That is the whole reason you all have funded their roles in the district.
Well, Dr. Watts, if there's a baseline experience that's all wonderful and beautiful, it seems like the baseline experience for when you get in trouble should be very consistent also. So if ISS isn't at every school, if some schools have come up with something more creative, then all of our children should have that chance to see what that different, and again, I go back to our question about where does our money go? It goes on people. But if we have people to do these things, I mean, these can be life-changing events for our children if we have the people to meet them and build these relationships when they need them. So that's why I'm always encouraging you to, as you think of ideas, okay, how would we implement it, and what would it cost, and what would be the outcomes for our kids if we could really do it, as opposed to us just kind of sitting here and, philosophizing about it. Yes. Okay, Dr. May, it's 4:24. You can go on.
So as we approach Goal 6, I want all of you to think of this really as our culminating goal, because this is focused on that future-ready experience that is essential for all of our students. So the focus here is that by 2031, 90% of our graduates will complete at least one future-ready milestone experience, whether that be work-based learning, dual enrollment, an apprenticeship, or some other signature experience. One of the things that we really value is the ability to provide our students a rich environment in which they can explore the various opportunities afforded to them. So these future-ready experiences will allow them to connect learning to purpose. It will really allow us to ensure that our students graduate with those real-world skills and exposure to various opportunities they may pursue, as well as clear options aligned to their goals. From a progress monitoring perspective, the indicators we're going to look at are the percentage of students who are on track for completing at least one of these milestone experiences based on their participation in a district-defined experience, such as those work-based learnings, apprenticeships, internships, dual enrollment, also field experiences, and those grade level appropriate signature experiences. We will be monitoring this quarterly and getting an updated on-track status. Additionally, we'll look at that annual graduate completion verification, what that final percentage is on an annual basis. Any questions on those?
That's a very lofty goal and a wonderful one, and I just want to backtrack it up from graduation. Let's go all the way back down to kindergarten. I'm going to put Ms. Davidson on blast because she told me that her kindergarten daughter was going to the beach the other day, her kindergarten class. And with her schedule, she was going to still try to make it out there for about 30 minutes. Now, can every kindergartner in Chatham County get to go to the beach? Okay, I mean, that's a baseline experience. You're going to go to the beach.
Yes.
And I really think every elementary school kid should get to go to the beach. When I worked over in Bluffton, I had a boy, we went to the beach as part of a summer school program, and he came in these Oxford shoes that you wear in the middle of winter. And it showed me he lived that close to the ocean. Bluffton is not very far from the Atlantic Ocean. And he had no concept of what to wear to the beach. And this is like a 6th, 7th grade boy. So these baseline experiences, not just by graduation, but they should start, and they're embedded. You know, Dr. Taylor is telling, okay, principals, every one of your kindergartners is going to do this.
Yes.
And it's not just by happenstance that you get at the right school where the leader knows that's important to do.
Absolutely. And I will say the brainchild from this, well, a lot of that has been catalyzed by things, this exact same thing that you're saying now, you have said across my almost 3 years, right? And I agree with you wholeheartedly. It shouldn't be by chance kids get these signature experiences. So what our academic team will be working on is defining by grade band. Every child in our district will experience this signature program, this signature field trip, K2. 3-5, every kid will experience these 2 or 3 things. Middle school, so on and so forth, all the way up to high school. And of course, a school can always go on top and do more, but yes, the baseline should be that every kid get to experience something that will allow them to have the exposure, the real world skills, all those things embedded into their learning. So thank you for inspiring that, and I think our team agrees. That's why we went back and added this goal.
Right, and it has to be, it has to correlate with the standard. Because I remember as teaching years ago at Georgetown, we would take our kindergartners our first graders on the riverboat cruise down on River Street. But we had to ensure, and it was required that any field trip that a teacher decided she wanted to take the students on, it had to correlate and tie in with the particular standards. So that's a good idea to say from grades K to 2, these are the standards that will correlate with this particular experience, and, you know, so forth, 3 to 4. So,
And if there was a literacy thread that ran through that, where there had to be a listening experience, a writing experience, and a speaking. And I know my team is like, oh, here she goes. She in dream mode. But again, to integrate a lot of these things together, I just think about how powerful that could be to not only tie the content, but also this thread around literacy could float through all those things.
And let me just say to the team, you know, we're up here and we're pontificating, and y'all have to do all the work. But let me just say, I grew up about 20 miles north of New York City. So going to the Statue of Liberty, going on boat rides on the Hudson River, going to the Guggenheim Museum, all of that was available for me because I was in the, you know, this small little town, but it was so close to New York City that we had all of that to do. And that has impacted my whole life. So reading and writing and speaking is all important, but getting those experiences embedded into your life and expecting that, oh, this is what people do who, you know, who live in New York City. This is how it feels to go up to the top of the Statue of Liberty and that kind of thing. So I think we see a big difference in our culture and our children and their behavior if all of this became second nature for them, like it was for me.
So, Ms. Davidson, do not get mad at me. One of the things we talked about when we started brainstorming on what we were doing at 208 was the fact that we wanted our students to be involved in design. So I know the RFPs are out and everything, but would you please reiterate to whoever is applying that that is something we want?
Yes.
You know, those kinds of internships, and those are life-changing. To be able to say, I helped design that building. So.
And we're finishing right on time.
Well, thank you so much. This concludes the presentation of the goals. Oh, and I will continue and discuss monitoring and accountability and the framework that we will maintain there. So very similar to what you saw earlier, that same three-tier pyramid where we're looking at tier 1 being our student outcomes, our goals, tier 2 progress indicators, and tier 3 internal performance measures. It's important to see how everyone fits with regard to this model. So all of you who graciously serve on our Board of Education provide governance oversight and hold our superintendent accountable for the ultimate results based on attaining these goals. So the focus here is whether our strategic goals are producing student outcomes and future readiness. The superintendent and her cabinet lead the system and ensure strategies are driving intended outcomes. The focus is whether we are achieving the student outcome goals that we have committed to and determining whether and where we may need to make strategy adjustments. Our chiefs and division leads will monitor progress indicators and analyze conditions driving outcomes. So their focus is whether the conditions and progress indicators indicate improvement at the pace that's required. So when we think about those annual targets, when we think about our ultimate 2031 goal, are we on pace? Are we on track? And what can we do to sustain or augment, enhance our progress? And lastly, but that's where a lot of the work is being done, lie our departments and project teams. They are executing tactics and they're continuously improving implementation quality. So their focus is to determine whether implementation is high quality, timely, and effective. And are the tactics, bottom line, delivering the expected results?
thing I'll add to this, and I know the team will kill me because I looked at this late last night and had an addition to it. Sorry, but I have another addition. The community really is the overarching monitor and accountability checker for us. Two of these tiers, Tier 1 and Tier 2, will be public-facing. We're going to be upscaling our dashboard so that they're public-facing. But our taxpayers ultimately fund public education. They elect our board, and to me, they are the ultimate overseers of accountability. And so that would be the addition that I would add to this. I'm sorry. And they actually sit
happy to.
they sit above all others in how we advance the work moving forward.
Yes.
Sorry, guys.
We'll make that up.
She's like, this lady needs to go to sleep.
You're in Dr. Mike. All right, go ahead and advance.
And ultimately, when we're looking at that internal progress monitoring for effective execution, we're coming back to reinforcing the fact that the superintendent and cabinet are gaining global insights into our goal progress, strategic progress, and the overall health of our organization. With regard to our divisions, our chiefs and division leaders, we're monitoring progress indicators to guide teams to achieve their goals based on strategy implementation and adjustments along the way. And lastly, with regard to that strategy implementation monitoring, we know that our departments and project teams will regularly monitor progress of key tactics and make any necessary adjustments so that we are all progressing as needed. Any questions with regard to this model?
I think Mr. Moss said we're all very excited about this, and we all feel we have something to stand on and actually work from, you know? So we appreciate all the hard work that went into this. Anything, Mr. Moss or Dr. Howard Hall?
Yeah, I would suggest, and board members don't get mad at me, I would suggest when we finally get this buttoned up,
It's coming. I promise
that
it's coming.
we have a few town halls on this, presented to the public. But I would also suggest that we contact different organizations and we have a
Roadshow.
traveling show. I mean, you know, of course, I've had them at the Rotary or at the Black Chamber or the Chamber, or so we're presenting it all the time, so the community knows exactly what we're doing. This is exciting. Great work, y'all.
I think I would be interested in meeting with targeted groups. I think it would go further. Town halls tend to be at the same time people are home getting ready for school the next day and work, and I haven't had many really successful ones. Dr. Hoskins Brown and I tried a combination town hall at Jenkins, District 2 and 3, and it kind of did not, Roger, it was one of those where we have our discussion on evening meetings, okay? But I think that is a great idea. If we could get out to targeted audiences and present this, I think that would be very good.
Agreed. It will be a multi-pronged strategy.
Yeah.
So there's no one methodology that will get us there. We've got one thing that we did on an extended cabinet last Friday is individuals worked on their elevator speeches for the strategic plan. So, you know, we want everyone to be a voice, to be able to, it can't all just come from me, it can't all just come from you. Every employee has to embody this strategic plan, know where they fit into the strategic plan, and see themselves in the strategic plan and be able to articulate to others. So it will be a multi-pronged strategy. I did the fireside chats that week. I was pleasantly surprised at the number of people who engaged, the number of clicks that we got for people to watch. Maybe they couldn't watch it the day that it was live, but they clicked after was well over 300. I don't know what the number is now. But making things like that convenient so that it's anytime, anywhere access, right? I can watch it on my lunch break. I can watch it at night before I go to bed. But the face-to-face engagement is also important because that's where you build understanding and buy-in. So I think we've got to have a multi-pronged strategy.
Very good. Okay. Yes, Dr. Howard Hall.
I'm sitting here reflecting, and I just, Ms. Hall, I didn't have the experience you had when you were in New York. And I'm sitting here just thinking, I grew up in Woodville, which is close to West Savannah, which is just a few miles from River Street. But my first experience of actually visiting River Street, I was in the 12th grade.
Oh, boy. See?
And my teacher is the one that took the cheerleaders our senior year, and she said, I'm gonna take you all out to the shrimp factory on River Street. And that was my first time going on River Street. So experience, and that is why I had such passion about those pools, because I understand that you have children that live so close in proximity to the beach and to River Street and do not have the opportunity to go. And the reason why I didn't have the opportunity to go, because I had parents that worked day and night and never had the chance to take us there.
Yeah,
Dr. Howard Hall, I think about my children at Gadsden School, how close they are to things. And I could see when I was over visiting with them that many of them, half a mile away is downtown Savannah. But most of them just see that MLK area corridor where they live, and that, that's it. So if we as a school system could open up those worlds for them, I mean, how wonderful that would be. So Mr. Hediger, we need to decide on the next meeting. And I guess, Dr. Taylor, what would be your recommendation as to when it would be fruitful for us to meet again?
We were thinking July or
Okay.
August.
Okay.
And what I'd like to give you an opportunity to do is look at some dates, and then whatever we decide for our next meeting, we'll bring those dates forward so that the committee can approve the dates.
So you'd like it August after school has started or July before school starts?
July before school starts.
Before school starts, okay. All right, okay, well, Mr. Hediger, I'll get with you and, we'll look at July, I guess towards the end of July.
Ms. Taylor, will you address the timeline for the adoption of the strategic plan?
Yeah.
Absolutely. The strategic plan will be adopted in our June board meeting. So we plan to bring forward the final plan in June for the full board's adoptions based on all of the iterations and feedback. We're joking about buttoned up, but we plan to have everything buttoned, zipped, tied, and brought to you in June for, again, full board approval.
Okay.
So could we really make a big production of that? I mean, I know we're always letting the public know when we have our board meetings, but could we start advertising the highlights of our board meetings? Like, we're going to talk about the strategic plan at this board meeting. Yeah, like a commercial. Because that, I mean, there are certain ministers at my church, I always go to church when they speak. Now, there are others that, yeah, anyway, but yeah.
Certainly will work, to be sure. I work with the comms team and my team, and we're chuckling. There's a joke around creating universes, so we definitely know how to make a splash on this team, but we'll be sure that when we bring it forward, that it gets the attention and time that it deserves, and I'll work very closely with Mr. Hediger around that.
And we just want to create a culture that the community and the parents want to come when they are glad and not mad.
Right.
Because when they're mad, they will swarm and it'll be a massive crowd, but we want it to just be the opposite. Come when you're glad. What are you excited about? Come on.
That's exactly how those town halls would go. If it's something everybody's mad about, it fills the rafters. But if it's something positive, you know, see you later, bye, so. Okay, so if we're through, that we're adjourned. Thank you.